There is something many people do every single week without thinking twice about it. They cook extra food, place it in the refrigerator, and heat it again the next day. It feels practical, responsible even. You save time, you waste less food, you avoid cooking again. And for most foods, reheating leftovers occasionally is completely normal. But there are a few foods that change in ways many people never hear about. Not because they suddenly become poisonous overnight, but because repeated heating, poor storage, and certain cooking habits may create compounds the body does not handle well over time. What concerns me is not one meal, it is repetition. Small habits repeated week after week for years often matter more than people realize. Today, I want to walk you through 4 foods that experts frequently recommend handling carefully when reheating, especially for adults over 50 and 60. And more importantly, I want to explain why. Because once you understand what happens inside these foods during storage and reheating, you may start looking at leftovers very differently. The first thing to understand is this: heat changes food chemically. That is not automatically bad. Cooking itself is a chemical process. It makes many foods safer and easier to digest. But when certain foods are heated again and again, especially at high temperatures, some compounds may break down while others increase. At the same time, storage conditions matter. How long food sits out, how quickly it cools, and how it is reheated can all affect what is happening at a microscopic level. And unfortunately, most people are never taught any of this. They simply assume if the food smells normal and tastes normal, everything is fine. Sometimes it is, but sometimes the issue is not taste. It is what repeated heat and storage may slowly create over time. So let us begin with the first food: processed meats. This includes bacon, sausage, deli meats, hot dogs, ham, and other preserved meats. Now let me be very clear. You do not need to panic if you occasionally eat these foods. This is about awareness and moderation, not fear. Processed meats already contain preservatives that help maintain color and shelf life. During cooking, especially high-heat cooking, some of these compounds can change into substances researchers have studied closely for many years. When these meats are reheated repeatedly or cooked at very high temperatures, those reactions may increase even more. This is one reason many nutrition experts recommend limiting heavily processed meats overall and avoiding burning or overheating them whenever possible. One simple habit that may help is this: if you do eat processed meats, prepare only the amount you plan to eat at that meal, rather than repeatedly reheating leftovers over several days. And avoid overheating them until they become extremely browned or charred. Gentler cooking tends to be the better option. Now let us move to the second food because this one surprises almost everyone. Leafy greens like spinach. People hear this and immediately become confused because spinach is widely considered healthy, and it absolutely can be. Spinach contains vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and naturally occurring nitrates that many people benefit from. The issue is not fresh spinach. The concern comes from how cooked spinach is stored and reheated. Over time, natural changes can occur inside cooked leafy greens, especially if they sit for too long before refrigeration or are repeatedly heated again. That is why many experts suggest avoiding multiple reheating cycles with cooked spinach and similar vegetables. A simple alternative is to eat leftover cooked spinach cold the next day in a salad or wrap instead of heating it again. Many people have never heard this before because the conversation around healthy eating often focuses only on what foods we eat, not how we handle them afterward. And honestly, preparation habits matter more than most people think. Now, before we continue, if you enjoy practical conversations like this about food, aging, and daily health habits, make sure you stay connected to the channel. My goal is to share information in a calm and realistic way, without fear or confusion, especially for adults who simply want to take better care of themselves, one habit at a time. Now let us continue because the third food is probably sitting in millions of kitchens right now: cooking oil, more specifically, oil that has already been heated once before. A lot of people reuse oil because it feels wasteful not to. And again, I understand why. But oils begin changing the moment they are exposed to high heat. With repeated heating, some oils may break down further and produce unstable compounds the body does not particularly like. This is especially true when oil is used for frying multiple times or when fried foods are reheated repeatedly afterward. The higher the temperature, the more stress the oil experiences. And many people do not realize that reheating fried foods later often means reheating food that has already absorbed degraded oil compounds from the first cooking process. This does not mean you can never enjoy fried food. It simply means moderation and preparation matter. One helpful habit is avoiding repeated reheating of fried foods whenever possible. If you do reheat them, gentler oven heating is usually preferred over extremely high microwave temperatures that can heat unevenly. And reusing the same frying oil again and again is generally not something most health professionals recommend. Now, the fourth food is one almost every household has stored in the refrigerator at some point: rice. And this one is less about chemistry and more about storage safety. Cooked rice can develop problems surprisingly quickly if it sits at room temperature too long before refrigeration. Certain bacteria naturally survive cooking in tiny dormant forms. If rice cools slowly or remains out for extended periods, those bacteria can multiply and produce substances that reheating may not fully solve later. This is why food safety experts consistently recommend cooling rice quickly and refrigerating it soon after cooking rather than leaving it sitting out for hours. The safest approach is simple. Cook smaller portions when possible. Refrigerate leftover rice relatively quickly and avoid reheating the same rice over and over again across multiple days. Many people grew up doing this without ever hearing a warning. But food handling recommendations have become much clearer over time as researchers better understand bacterial growth and food storage safety. Now, I want to pause for a moment because this is important. The purpose of this conversation is not to create fear around food. That is not healthy either. The goal is simply awareness. Your health is often shaped less by dramatic choices and more by ordinary routines repeated consistently over time. How you cook, how you store food, how often you rely on heavily processed meals, how much fresh food remains in your routine. These small decisions quietly add up over the years, and honestly, most people never receive practical education about any of this. So let us quickly review the 4 foods we discussed. Processed meats reheated at very high temperatures, cooked leafy greens repeatedly reheated after storage, previously heated cooking oils and reheated fried foods, and rice stored improperly or reheated multiple times. Again, this is not about perfection. You do not need to throw away your kitchen habits overnight, but even small adjustments may help reduce unnecessary stress on the body over time. Cook smaller amounts when possible. Store leftovers properly. Avoid repeated reheating cycles. Use moderate heat instead of extreme heat whenever you can. And pay attention not only to what you eat, but how you prepare it, because those details matter more than most people realize. If you made it this far, I would really like to hear from you. Which of these 4 foods surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments because your responses help shape future videos for this channel. And if someone in your family constantly reheats leftovers without thinking twice about it, share this video with them. Not to scare them, but simply to help them become a little more aware of everyday habits that may deserve more attention. Thank you for spending these minutes with me today. And remember, good health is rarely built through extreme changes. More often, it comes from small, informed decisions, repeated consistently over time.